Welcome to Tales of Podcastia, Season 1, the legendary book club embellished with voices. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And this podcast is our newest Ko-Fi timed reward series covering every game in the Tales series in release order. Today we'll be covering the second section of Tales of Phantasia, covering up until Arche joins the party. But first, in our favorite new warm-up bit for this podcast, I ask what the characteristic genre name of a game would be if it were in the Tales series. And this week, our game is Lunar, the Silver Star.
Haven't played it.
Haven't played it. Oh yeah, it's from before your time. And I don't think you even listened to that season. So.
I didn't.
Okay.
My RPG of Silver Star. Some of them are just like Tales of Eternity, RPG to Eternity, shit like that. So
yeah. A quick and dirty one, I think, would be RPG of songs and sprite work because it has good sprites on the on the Sega CD. But my follow-up one is Kingdom Hearts.
RPG of suck ass.
RPG of light and shadow is like too obvious and could also be every fucking thing. RPG of reuniting hearts.
RPG to be real bad. And it's not that I don't like the concept. The concept's fine. And it's not that I'm irony poisoned and can't accept overly earnest stuff. Just everything about it is really poorly executed.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing how bad Kingdom Hearts 1 is. Like, all of the good feels I have for Kingdom Hearts are from every other game in that series and not Kingdom Hearts 1.
I think Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of the best video game sequels of all time. And for me, it's like a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, that tracks. For funsies, a third one that I generated is Trails in the Sky second chapter.
Not really siblings RPG.
RPG of I swear it's not incest. A quasi-serious one, which are boring, but RPG of returning home, because that's Joshua's whole thing. In the whole plot, you accidentally do JRPG stuff. You're really just trying to find Joshua and bring him home.
Mm-hmm.
But if we think of more games, I built a random generator, then it pulls from pod games plus other things that we've played and talked about. So we'll have tons of these to go in the future. So for now, though, we're going to talk about the plot of Tales of Phantasia.
I played this a while ago because we were going to record on Monday, but then we were going to record on Monday and Friday. But then Monday didn't work out.
Yeah. So now we're just on Friday.
Yeah. So I hope I remember anything.
Yeah, there's not a lot to remember, so should be fine. So when we last left our heroes, they were blasted into the past, but they didn't know that yet. That conversation happened after they already got blasted. So they just know that they're somewhere else. So yeah, they just decide that they have to find a way to stop Daos. So they set off into this unknown world, and they can't really shake the fact that it feels familiar, but is very different at the same time. They come upon a small village named Belladam, whose layout feels familiar. The villagers are surprised that they have visitors because they so rarely do. And Cress is like, we were sitting here using clerical arts. And everyone's like, what the fuck is a cleric? Do you mean magic? And Cress is like, no, magic is dead. It died, I don't know, approximately 100 years ago. And the mayor is like, look, I can magic. So he does a magic. And Mint is like, well, I can cleric. And she does some cleric. And they're both like, that's weird.
And these are two clearly distinct things. These are so different.
Yeah. The thing that I think is weird is Cress is like, oh, magic is dead. We can't do magic. How does he summon lightning for a lightning demon thing?
It's an art, not magic. They're different.
I want someone to tell me the differences between arts and clericalness and magic. And I don't think they'll be able to. And then the secret fourth thing that is the plot for this week. Mint is like, magic seems really strong. We should use it to fight Douse. And the elder is like, good fucking luck. Douse is really strong. Cress is like, you know about Douse? He only showed up like last scene. And the elder's like, what are you talking about? He kind of has taken over the world and everything sucks shit because of it. Why wouldn't I know about him? And they're like, but that happened like 100 years ago. And they're like, oh my God, we've gone back in time. Finally. And they piece it all together. So the elder tells them that Douse is impervious to weapons and he can only be harmed by magic. And the characters are like, I wonder if that has anything to do with why magic is missing in our time. Except they don't. They don't pick up on this for a very long time. Cress is like, teach me how to use magic. And the elder says, only elves can do magic. Humans are shit out of luck. And Cress is like, oh, well, I guess we'll just go hire a mage then so they can do magic for us. The elder is like, you'll want to go talk to Claus F. Lester, who is a human who wants to be a mage so bad that he's been studying a lot to try and learn it. He can't because he's human, but maybe he'll be able to help you. I hear he's working on an alternative power. We're like, cool. Let's go out and find Claus. His name in the Japanese is Clarth, which is a much cooler name, and it's not another C name to go along with. It's not another CL name to go along with Class, and so Clarth it is.
Clarth definitely starts with CL.
It starts with a K in our game.
I mean, it's the same sound.
Yes, but it visibly is different, which makes it easier to read. I'm if I were watching the anime and they were calling them Klaus and Kless, I would definitely have trouble. But since I'm playing the game, seeing the big old K versus the C makes it easier to read.
Okay. And is it at this point where they also mention that magic, while it's still around, it is in the process of dying?
I don't think so.
Like,
I think they
hard to find magic users and shit.
I don't remember if they do. I know specifically they go hard on it later when we meet the tree spirit. So we make our way across the world map that's available to us, and we make it to Euclid Village, where we find Clarth in his study, and we ask him to teach us about magic. And he's like, oh, cool, another student. Tuition is $100,000. You can pay the receptionist outside. And Cress is like, no, you don't understand. We have to stop Douse. And he's like, cute, but no. And then he gets scalded by his receptionist. I don't remember what her name is in ours, but her official localized name is Miranda. Miranda chides him and bullies him and tells us to be more assertive and to ask him again, but more directly. And so we are like, look, it's imperative that you teach us about magic. We have to stop Douse. And he's like, okay, fine, whatever. And he joins the party. He says that since he's not elven, he can't do any magic, but he can summon spirits. Well, he could, in theory, if he had any, but he doesn't have any. So we got to go get some. So we're off to Lone Valley to make a pact with Sylph, the wind spirit.
And the great thing about Clarth is that his weapon is a book. And you might think his weapon is a book, but he can't do magic. So he can't be casting spells out of that book. And you'd be right. He, in fact, hits people with the book.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. When we get to Lone Valley, Clarth is like, okay, Sylph is up on the mountain, but first I need to find a pact ring. And when I get a pact ring, I can then make the pact with Sylph. And Mint is like, oh, I thought you just created summoning. Like, I thought this was something you created. He's like, no, I rediscovered something that's in an ancient document. So there are a bunch of pact rings around. We don't know how to make any of them. We have to find ancient ones. And so this dude, Bart, in this house here, he has one. we're going to go buy it off him so that we can get some magic. So we go into Bart's house, and he tells us that there was an earthquake recently, and since then all the spirits on the mountain have been acting strangely and are really dangerous, and they might even be mini boss fights if we run into any of them. Clarth is like, I don't care, can I have your pact ring? And Bart is like, weird that you know I have it, but yeah, you can have it provided that you go find my daughter Arche. She's been missing for a while, and I think she ran into the valley. You can't miss her. She has a huge pink ponytail. It's kind of her thing. So we go into the valley, and it's a pretty cool dungeon. A lot of the ways to go are blocked off by wind, so you have to find alternate ways around, and you can stop the winds from blowing if you fight the spirits that are creating the wind. Then in the bottom part, there's like a few tricky block puzzles, not like Sokoban style block puzzles, but like you have to get a block navigated through a maze to put it on a switch. And it's pretty neat. Right inside of the dungeons, one of the spirits says that there's some toxic miasma that was unearthed during the earthquake, and it's driving them all mad. So to beat the dungeon, we have to seal off the miasma and then make our way to Sylph herself. When we meet Sylph, Clarth recites the ancient binding ritual, and Sylph is like, dude, you're a nerd. You studied really hard for this. You like tattooed your body and got the ring, and you're saying all the words right. That's fucking weird. She promises to form a pact with Clarth, but only if we promise to find a way to prevent the mana from disappearing from the world. We're like, elaborate on that. She goes, no, and go talk to the tree spirit for more info. So Clarth starts to do the bonding ritual, but he stops and he's like, hey, have you seen a girl in a pink ponytail? And Sylph is like, I haven't seen any humans or elves in the past several months besides you guys. And so they make the pact, and then we head back all the way to the forest by Belladam to talk to the spirit of the tree. On the way out, we tell Arche's father that we didn't see her, but if we find her, we'll send her back home as soon as possible and head out.
He's strangely chill about this.
Yes. When we get to the spirit of the tree, it's the same tree lady that Cress saw when he was in the future. But at this point, the tree isn't dead yet. She introduces herself as Martel. That's a secret tool that'll help us out much, much later. She says that the tree Yggdrasil is dying, and that's bad because the tree gives the world mana, and without mana, there would be no spirits, no magic, and no creatures. Clarth is like, whatever. Cress is like, no, she's telling the truth. In 100 years, there is no magic, there are no spirits, there are plenty of creatures, though, but this tree is dead as a doornail there. Martel says that something is using up tons of magic, but she doesn't know what, and if it keeps using it up, it'll kill the tree and therefore the world. Martel vanishes, and we're like, okay, so what do? We don't have anything to go on. The only lead that we have is that we know that Daus is defeated soonish, and he goes to the future, and around that point, all of magic disappears. So maybe if we stop Daus, we can also save magic? I don't know, worth a shot. Only thing we have right now. Might as well just continue trying to stop Daus. Clarth says that the strongest spirit that he knows of is Luna, the moon spirit, and to get a pact ring strong enough to bond with her, we would have to find in Moria Mine in the kingdom of Alvanista. That's right. This is a Lord of the Rings reference. So to get to Alvanista, we have to travel by boat. And to travel by boat, we must go to Venezia. So off we go. But when we get to Hamel, a small town that I didn't even think to mention earlier because it didn't have anything in it, it's been utterly destroyed. Every building is blown up. It is just the same as Cress's hometown earlier in the game. In the middle of the city is a single generic female child NPC that's been palette swapped to have pink hair. And she's just standing in the middle of the city. When we talk to her, she tells us that the sorcerer Demeter is the one who attacked the city and killed everyone, including her mom and papa. Cress is like, the bastard, let's kill him. And Clarth is like, we're kind of busy. We're on a mission. And Cress is like, a mission of vengeance. Let's go. And so we stop heading to Venezia for a boat, and we instead try and find Demeter. The girl tells us that her name is Rhea Scarlet. She tells us that Demeter headed off towards the north, which is where Venezia is. So we head off to Venezia, but not for a boat, for justice. We hunt around fruitlessly for about an hour trying to find the path forward, and we even leave town to check for skits several times to get hints as to where to go, fruitlessly, until we finally find the person to talk to that we swore we already had talked to twice before, but whatever. And they tell us that Demeter is a powerful sorcerer, and he used to be the sweetest guy, always helping everyone in need, but about a year ago, he had a heel turn, became a hermit, disappeared to an island in the west.
I've done that.
So I guess we are headed to Venezia for a boat after all, but not the boat we were looking for, a different kind of boat. We arrive at Demeter's Island, and it's a big dungeon with spectacular graphics, but not a lot else. And we find Demeter hanging out in a creepy basement. We're like, her name is Rhea Scarlet. You killed her mother and father. Prepare to die. And Demeter's like, what? I killed Rhea Scarlet and her mom and dad. That is not Rhea. We're like, what the fuck? And then we notice Demeter's reflection has the same ghost behind it that the Black Knight did when we saw his reflection. So we know that Douse is controlling him. So we kick his ass. And
he crucially does not admit to killing people. He says that Rhea's parents died in an accident and she died in the same accident. So this girl is manipulating you and fucking with you. So don't kill me, actually.
Yes, that's what he says. But it gives us a choice on if we believe Rhea or if we believe the evil scary guy. And I chose to believe Rhea. Do you remember which one you chose?
I chose to believe Rhea.
Yeah. The Let's Play doesn't even bring up the fact that there's a choice there. So I don't know what happens if you choose the other one. It might be a but thou must. So yeah, we fight him. According to like the scuttlebutt of the old internet when this translation came out, this fight is supposedly the first like wall of the game. But I kicked his ass really easy, so I don't know why everyone says that. Who knows? And after we kill him, Rhea collapses onto the floor, and we rush to her side, and she's like, "Thank you, everyone. At last, I can go to join my parents." And then she like explodes in a big PlayStation 1 magical energy blast. We're like, "Rhea, are you okay?" And she goes, "I'm not Rhea. I'm Arche." And we're like, "Oh, hey, you're that girl we were looking for." So we rush her back to her father, where we learn the truth. Rhea was Arche's friend, and Arche went out to find Rhea, only to find the town destroyed. So Arche let Rhea use Rhea's spirit use her body so that she can get revenge, which is a thing that only magic users can do. So Arche must be an awesome mage, actually. Arche comes out of the house and thanks us for helping Rhea and wants to return the favor by helping us. But she can't be a palette swapped generic girl the whole time, so she puts her hair up in a giant pink ponytail and changes into character design clothes. She gives us some more pact rings from Bart, and then we continue onward towards Alvanista. But that is for next week.
She really joins with little fanfare.
Yeah.
She just walks out of the house and says, "I'm in your party now." And you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Damn, this was a short episode. It felt like a lot of playing.
It was. It was more playing than last week.
Yeah. But a lot of it was just two really good dungeons, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is bonus content. I need to just be okay with short episodes. I'm just so used to 2-hour chonkers on the main podcast.
There's only two of us, and the main podcast has only been running an hour this season anyway.
Yeah. Because we don't have someone to fill us in on the political history of every single reference in every single game.
Yes.
But yeah, let's listen to some more Tales of Phantasia music and then talk about our memorable moments.
The character of the Dark Knight from last week, he's called Mars in the version we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
However, apparently in other versions, he's called Malice. And, I realized, in, katakana, those would be spelled the same way, like Marisu. And then I realized that's the same way you would spell Maris. And as a Frasier fan, I found that very funny.
That's good. Speaking of other translations, in the other PlayStation translation that we're not playing, but the Let's Play is, Clarth starts with 2 titles in the game. They're, again, optional and not important, so you probably might not have noticed. But one of them that he starts with in our translation and the Game Boy translation and the literal translation in the Japanese is like Lucky Guy or something like that, and it's a title given to someone who is fully reliant on a woman who's not his wife or his girlfriend, something like that. But the other PlayStation one puts that title as Pain in the Ass, which I think is just great. Clark's his personality is very pain in the ass. It didn't necessarily come across in our notes, but like every time he's talking, he's kind of a little shit.
Yeah, you didn't really explain the fact that Claus is an asshole, and like as soon as we're told to go meet him, the mayor's like, "Now this Clarth guy, he's an asshole. Just be warned."
Yeah, he's definitely an asshole, and he's kind of just along because he wants to be a mage more than he wants to actually do anything.
Also, I'm looking at the list of characters now.
Mm-hmm.
He's 29 years old. He is so fucking old in JRPG years.
Yeah, he's already a college professor. So, right after we get here, the Elder of Belladam gives us a world map, and this world map is the coolest world map in RPG history, and now I'm mad that every other game I've ever played doesn't have this. So, if you hover over a town that you've been to, if you've been to a shop inside of that town, it will tell you what the shops in that town sell if you hover over it on the world map. So if you are like, oh, I need something for a cooking dish that I'm trying to do, I know you can buy shrimp somewhere. Where was it that I found you could buy shrimp? You can look on your world map and it'll tell you where to go to buy shrimp, which is really, really cool.
Neat. I didn't notice that.
Mm-hmm. Also, I mentioned earlier that the graphics were really good in Demeter's Castle, but they're like phenomenally good.
Yes.
They do a lot with the 3D power of the PlayStation. So like one of the puzzles you have to do is a prism puzzle where you have to direct the light, but when you open up the windows to let the light in, the light isn't coming in strong enough. So you go and you go outside and there's a big ass tree like in the way of the light. And as you walk like next to the tree, you like walk through the sunbeam, and the sunbeam is like actually a polygon, and you have a shadow that like goes against it. And so as you're walking through, you have like dynamic lighting and shadowing because the PlayStation is really cool, and you couldn't do shit like that on the SNES, and it makes it fantastic. And growing up, I thought that 2D PS1 games were stupid because I wanted 3D graphics. But now that I'm in the future, I'm like, no, the Super NES style PS1 games are actually kind of the best ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I love 2D games from this era.
They're real nice.
It's a shame that, like, for instance, the Sega Saturn doesn't have more 2D games. Because they made it to make the best 2D games ever, and then we're like, oh, wait, no one wants 2D games anymore. Oops.
Mm-hmm. So, Bernard, you didn't listen to Tales of Symphonia, right?
Right.
Okay. So I won't bring up the cool thing that I heard, But if you listeners have listened to the main cast and listened to Tales of Symphonia, you might have picked up on something cool that happened this week.
And that something cool was Nancy and Elwyn.
Oh yeah, the whole side plot. I probably should have just talked about it. I didn't do it all, but it was all in the Let's Play. But it would have been plenty of time.
I mean, it's not interesting or good.
Yeah.
But when you enter one of the villages, there's a girl just around, and Mint is like, Cress, we need to go talk to that girl. She's upset. There's something wrong with her. And Cress is like, she's just standing there. And Mint is like, no, she's lovesick. We've got to go help her. And so Cress walks up and is like, hi, my name's Cress. And Mint is like, why are you flirting with her? And so Mint talks to her, finds out her name is Nancy. She's in love with a guy in town who is visiting town named Elwyn. But she can't bring herself to go talk to Elwyn. He's the son of some big fancy merchant in Venezia. But we go and talk to Elwyn, and then we go and talk to Nancy, and we go and talk to Elwyn and Nancy a few times. We talk to the characters. They don't meet here, but then Nancy ends up Elwyn goes back to Venezia. Nancy ends up following him there, normal.
Mm-hmm.
And we set them up on a date in Venezia, and they instantly fall in love, decide to get married. Elwyn's father does not approve, and I think they decide to elope, and I think that's as far as we get this week in that side quest.
Mm-hmm. I hope it has worthwhile loot at the end of it, but who can say? That did remind me of something, and I'm trying to remember. Do you know
what it reminded you of? Do you need me to remind you of what it reminded you of?
Maybe so.
Do you want me to relay the entire Nancy and Elwyn plot again?
Oh, I remember what it was. So when you go to Clark's study, you can read a whole bunch of background lore stuff. So there's a thing about, like, you can find a letter with him and one of his colleagues where they're talking about how they can't figure out how to make pact rings, but there's a bunch in the Moria mine. You can find out a whole bunch about all of the different spirits, including like the hierarchy of the spirits, and I have the 4 great spirits and their leader Maxwell, and things like that. And then there's a third one that when you look at it, it's like it's filled with kids' picture books, which I think is just great. It has all of this detailed scientific knowledge and a shitload of picture books.
Also, in Clark's study, you can go up to a few bookcases and check them, and it'll be like, wow, a magic spell book, but I can't use magic. So remember to go back there now that you have a magic user.
Oh, that's smart. I'll make sure I do that. So how old do you think Arche is?
Well, I mean, I know how old she is. I checked.
But, like, before you checked, what's your read of how old she is?
I mean, it's a sprite. She's the same size as everyone else because she's a sprite.
Yeah, I got the idea that she was, like, 8.
Yeah, that's sort of the impression I got, but she's 17.
Yeah, she's 17.
She hasn't said more than like 5 words as herself.
Yeah. And so maybe Rhea was like younger. And so Rhea gave us that impression. But are you familiar with the infamous line from the fan translation of Tales of Phantasia?
No.
Okay. Well, it hasn't happened in the thing yet, but it's in knowing now that she's supposed to be 17 makes it make more sense. But I was like confused as shit when I thought this was a 9-year-old, and so I meet this pink-haired 9-year-old, and I know that it's probably Arche, and I'm like, how the fuck? But in one of the fan translations, Clarth says that Arche looks like she fucks like a tiger.
What?
Yeah, it's created whole cloth. The Japanese implies that she's like spunky and therefore like cute, and is having like at one point has like a mild like flirty sexy dream about Claus in the original Japanese. The Super NES fan translation that came out dialed it up to like 99 on how explicit and hardcore everything it was.
I don't like that.
I don't like it at all. I don't like it because even when she's 17, but at least she's like an anime 17 and all of the characters are around the same thing. But like
at any age, I don't like it.
Absolutely. But it was very, very weird for me to meet this 8-year-old and think all of those things were about this 8-year-old. So, yeah, what a weird article of things. Is
that the one that's from like 2001?
Yeah, something like that. If you check out Legends of Localization, he has a whole breakdown on the various translations of those two scenes, and it's pretty good. They haven't happened yet, so we'll see how the Phantasia production handles it. But I guarantee you they don't make up Arche fucks like a tiger. So
cool.
Yeah.
Man. Overall, fan translations have a higher batting average than you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get stuff like that as often as you'd think.
Yeah. I especially when you get fan translations that like were made after, I'm going to just throw out like 2008. I don't know if that's a good number for it, but when people found out you could fan translate in like the early 2000s, most of them were like this, but they very quickly aren't like this. The average one is a little too literal, but most of them are pretty good and fine.
I remember it might have been on Legends of Localization. I read about this one very obscure RPG that got fan translated, and for some reason the translator just put in completely made up stuff, just like talking about how liberals suck and shit.
What the fuck?
It was so weird.
It's insane. But if you're a listener and you were a part of Phantasia Productions, you're doing a great job, and I really appreciate playing it with this translation. Yeah, this game continues to be vibes and to be good, and I'm excited to play more. I will probably play next week's part today because I have it on my mind. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. This episode was a timed exclusive for our Ko-Fi supporters. So if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club and drop us a donation, and you'll probably have a few more episodes waiting on you when you do. Donations help us pay for hosting costs and game costs and things like that. And when you donate, you can join one of 3 tiers. The Gadabout tier is everyone who pays $1 or more a month. This gets you access to these episodes a month before everyone else and lets you vote on our polls whenever they go live. The Warrior tier is for everyone who pays $5 or more a month, and they also get their name shouted out at the end of every episode like this. Shoutouts to Frost Terror, Dragon Slayer 19, Cerebral Wind, Floris, Kaldron, Freddy Rodriguez, Aaron524, Jfro Prime, and Doho. And then finally, we have the Luminary tier, which is for everyone who loves us so much that they pay us $20 or more a month. And they also get a 1-sentence shout out to make me say whatever they want. So shout outs to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out criticaldistance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout outs to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, a game review website by people like us for people like us. Shout outs to Vimk, who says, play The Legend of Legaia. It's that PS1 RPG everyone confuses for Legend of Dragoon. And also to Carr, who is a dentist, so he's not shouting out his Twitch stream, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For Tales of Podcastia, I'm Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
Gotta know when to go.
Yeah.
This will pay off in like 6 games when we play Symphonia, and you're like, aha, I understand. Lloyd is silly.
I won't understand because I will never run from a fight and hear that line because I'm brave and good at the game.
Hopefully.